Hi, I'm Taylor, Dr. Taylor Burrowes if you don't know me, and welcome to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. One of the things that I've learned in working with both men and women in coaching and consulting is women tend to not like following the rules so much. They have a harder time with logic. They like to just follow their feelings and their instincts and not think things through. Whereas men really like to have the how-to information, the instruction and rules. It's really easy for them to sink their teeth into it, and they like to use logic and reason. So here are 4 rules for women in dating, and hopefully you'll find that they're helpful for you and that they'll lead you in the right direction comfortably, ladies. Number 1, only date one man at a time. This is so important. A lot of dating coaches will tell you to date multiple men in order to really make sure that you know what you want and that you choose wisely. Now, they may emphasize that you don't have to have sex, which you shouldn't, with multiple people, but still dating multiple people disperses your energy and your connection and the ability for you to connect properly with someone. Hedging your bets is never a good idea. Now, it's one thing to internalize confidence and competence and to feel comfortable and outcome independent when dating someone, when starting to vet them, when in the beginning of a relationship. But to use other people in order to dilute your attachment to one in particular that maybe you like a lot is not ethical and it's not necessary. So I teach women how to internalize that confidence and outcome independence without multiple people. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to put all your eggs in one basket in a desperate sense. It means that you're going to be very conscious and intentional about aligning with the right prospect. So in the very beginning, when you're just getting to know strangers, you're going to be gathering information from more of a distance. You might be in some kind of encounter with someone, depending on the circumstance. There's lots of different ways to have contact with people. You could be in a class, you could be at the library, at the movie theater, at the store, you could be at an event with friends, at the coffee shop. So you can have interactions with people, but going out on a date with someone is specific to someone who you have intentions to be with. And that's the distinction most people don't see and use to their advantage. They use the loophole that they're still single so that they can do that with multiple people, but that's not the standard or the values that I promote or my clients align with. So it's really important to understand that dating one person at a time doesn't mean that you're putting all your eggs in one basket, that you're dependent on an outcome, or that you are desperate for that attachment. You are absolutely a free agent in regards to your singlehood, and you can speak to people before you decide that you have interest in pursuing something real with someone. Then you would be dating that one person. The other thing you need to keep in mind with number 1, ladies, is that when you go out on dates with people, nobody knows that you don't have sex with them. You have to understand the impressions you leave. If you're meeting up with people, multiple people, here and there, a couple times a week, a couple times a month, whatever the frequency is, that makes you look like you are easy to access. And people are going to assume you're having some kind of physical or romantic and sexual contact with them. Maybe it's a kiss, maybe it's a caress, maybe it's sex, maybe it's necking, whatever they call it these days, hooking up. But on some level, you can't disprove that. You have to assume, people are going to assume that you are having some kind of sexual contact with them. So really important, be aware of the impressions you're giving when you're dating a bunch of men. Now, women tend to assume that it makes them attractive, that they're in high demand. And this is false. That's what makes men attractive to women, when we assume they're in high demand. But women who are in high demand in regards to easy to access are very unattractive to the right men, to healthy men. Now, men want a woman who is beautiful and desirable, but they don't want a woman who has been with a lot of men. So this is really important, ladies. Do not date more than one man at a time. And hopefully you won't be a serial monogamist either. You want to be very, very clear about who you're vetting and when you allow that person to have access to you. on an emotional, spiritual, physical, sexual basis. Rule number 2, don't escalate your emotions, which means don't get more emotionally invested or emotionally attached to someone, even if you're interested in them, probably especially when you're interested in them, until you establish that you genuinely respect them. Desiring a man or being interested in a man is not the same thing as respecting him. When you respect a man, you have an admiration for him. You see the whole package and you can really look beyond the external and into the character of who he is. When you truly respect him, that's when you can get more emotionally invested because it's safe to emotionally invest and attach to him because he has reciprocated and he makes you feel safe. Respect is also really important to establish before you emotionally invest in a man, not just because of his character, but because when you have respect for him, you see him as having high value. And when you see him as having high value, that actually triggers a stronger and more genuine sexual desire and sexual polarity with him. The last important element about respect is pair bonding. When you genuinely respect a man, this will ensure that you will commit to him and be loyal for the long haul, which is really important if you're going to emotionally invest in someone. It better be for the real deal. Rule number 3, before you escalate physically and sexually with a man, it is imperative that you make sure you are enthusiastic about the potential of him being the father of your children. If you're not craving his children, then he's not the one for you. Now, I've had a lot of detractors throw in the comment, well, what if I don't want children? Or what if I can't have children? And I hear you. Some women want different things out of their future. Granted, you still have a biological urge to have babies. This is just something you can't fight, even if you decide otherwise. So you need to use that instinct, that maternal instinct that we all have biologically and psychologically to help you determine when you're with the right person. And not just on a sexual level, like desiring his babies might be more of a lustful thing because he's just got that genetic chemistry that you want, but it's also because you see him as a really strong father figure for your children. He emulates the values and the character and the personality and all of those qualities that you want to share in a life together as husband and wife and mother and father. That enthusiasm and that security is going to be the trigger for you to know you can potentially escalate physically and sexually with someone. Now, this doesn't mean you have to escalate sexually if you believe in waiting till marriage before you're sexual, but especially if you don't, make sure that this is your benchmark for doing so. Rule number 4 is there's no games. You're not jumping through any hoops, you're not putting him through any hoops, and no misdirections. So this is all about clarity, sincerity, and integrity. This is what a conscious relationship must be built on. So you're going to be very clear about what your standards are, what you're looking for, what your values are, and that you're seeking alignment. You're also not going to be pressuring the situation. You're not going to be too assertive, which means pushy. You're going to be outcome independent, which means that even if you want this to be your future husband and father of your children, you're not going to force the situation. You're going to let the connection reveal itself organically. You're not desperate for him, and you're willing to walk away if those values and standards are not shared. Ultimately, you're confident and you're competent on your own, but you know what you want and you have your deal breakers, your must haves, and you know what your trade offs are, and those minimum standards have to be met. And it's not about being too picky, but it's not about concessions that you're going to make on things that matter the most. And don't give any ultimatums for commitment. This should emerge organically. You're going to be giving that loyalty once you're dating him anyway. So, what you need to do is hold back just enough of yourself so that he is going to have to reciprocate to you in order to earn more of that emotional and physical investment from you. And because you have your own thing going on, you live your life, you have your work, you have your family, you have your interests, you're not putting all that pressure on him to meet your needs. You're already doing so. So, this is going to be a perfect way to ensure that the right man is going to claim you. All right, well, before we go, I want to remind you what the 4 rules are for vetting for ladies. And if you did like this video, do give it a thumbs up. I'd love to hear from you. Ask me your questions, tell me your comments below the video, and subscribe to the channel to stick around for more videos every week. Ciao!